Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast with your host, Carolyn Ozuna. Join us as we uncover the hidden thoughts, stories, and moments that help bring light to the healing power of truth and examine how silence can affect us mentally, physically, and spiritually. We'll also share profound stories, interviews, and transformative narratives to help release ourselves from the hidden and step into healing towards inner peace, joy, and fulfillment. Now, here's your healing strategist and host, Kareen.
I'll call one of my mentors, and I am going to let Carolyn take the floor and let her tell you all of her awesomeness.
Oh my goodness. Right away? Well, first, let me say thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast because I know this just isn't a podcast. This is like a broadcast of your spirit and your soul. And you're just so loving and you care about people so much. And so it's so nice to see you share your heart with the world and with those that you love, those new and those old. And so it's an honor to be here. I've been healing people for the past 10 years, and I've held hundreds of events all over the world. I've worked with some of the top healers and gurus in the industry, celebrities. I've partnered with people who've worked on Gwyneth Paltrow, been on Netflix specials, and so it's an honor to be here and share some of the healing work that I do with your community. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Um, Tell me, Carolyn, we're talking about secrets and how they can affect us in a physical, emotional, spiritual way. Is there something that comes to mind for you that maybe you held within your body that caused, some sort of issue for you?
Well, I think that the secrets can cause a lot of damage in the nervous system, especially when you're hiding or you feel unsafe to be heard or you feel like you can't come out. And that's why a lot of children, they have a hard time speaking up and speaking out. And they feel like just holding the secret. But when we do that, when we hold the secrets, especially if it's a painful one, it's like locking the pain inside of you. And then that pain becomes your prison over time. And so the only secret that I can think of that's been in my life is, I think about, gosh, I guess about 10 years ago now, just, I was in a relationship and I really loved this person, but I wasn't in love with them. And I was staying with them because I was afraid to be alone. And I was causing pain to myself, pain to my family, pain to him by staying in a relationship that I knew I wasn't meant for. So you could say I had a secret that, I loved this person, but I wasn't in love with them anymore. And I think a lot of times what we do, we don't realize we do this, but we settle, um, and we kind of are afraid to see what's behind that door of the unknown. And so we'll
Mhm.
stay in known hells, because we're just so afraid of what's behind the door. We push away unknown heavens unknowingly. And so when you share these secrets, when I finally came out, it was so painful to say, I don't want to be with you. I'm sorry. I can't be with you anymore. We've tried it. It's like trying to glue a shattered glass bottle back together, and I'm just tired. There's just too much pain here. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think all relationships can work. Jason, my husband now, who I met, and a week after I met him, he proposed to me. And that comes from, if you want to say comes from sharing secrets, I think it comes from being the most authentic version of yourself. And so, you can say it however you want, because someone might not relate to, well, I don't have any secrets. Well, everyone has these two fears as a human being, that we're not enough and we won't be loved. And so I think the ability to be the most authentic version of yourself is unleashing all your secrets. Like, this is who I am, love me or hate me, it'll have very little to do with me, but this is authentically my spirit, my soul, who I am. And you said you really like it, these podcasts, to be real and raw. And I think that you like that because it's rare.
Yeah.
It's rare that people show up, because this world has kind of been conditioned to people please, to um,
Mhm.
overindulge, to do, to say yes when we mean no, to say no when we mean yes. And so we're kind of breaking free of this cultural mold of, one, what's possible for you in your business and your finances, but two, what's possible in your relationships, in your health. Because you might have chose things, like I chose my ex-husband at a time when I was a completely different version. And so
Mhm.
either when two souls meet and they have complementary wounds, they can either grow together, or they can be like two passing ships and their values no longer align. And so, yeah, I would say that was something that affected me. And then after it was out, I met the love of my life. And so I think that's the more authentic you can become, because they did this study. It's called the Spain study, Spane. And it was
Mhm.
a study on vibrations, about what is the most powerful frequency that you can release from the human body. And, everyone was like, oh, it's going to be love. Love's the most powerful force in the universe. But it actually wasn't love, it was authenticity. It's actually it was 4,000 times more powerful than love. Now, what is authenticity? Authenticity is just saying what you believe and believing what you're saying. That's all
Mhm.
it is. It's you're acting in accordance with your truth. That's it.
Mm.
It's just that
Yeah.
simple. And so, yes, I believe that sharing secrets can be really life changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to for me, and really the force behind this is as the hider in my family and all of the things going on in our home, you just didn't talk about those things, right? And that was what was presented. It's like we don't talk about that what happens in this house stays in this house, and things were swept under the carpets, if you will. And then that got housed within my body. And I was taught certain things, that as a woman, you're to be barefoot and pregnant, right? That whole barefoot and pregnant thing. And really learning to be good. And I use that in air quotes, because it was like I learned to be a good student, because if I was a good student, I got praised. And that kind of led me on this lifelong student journey, and afraid, just being afraid to step out of the dark, out of the hiding, and use my authentic voice. And sometimes my authentic voice, it sounds a little bit like a sailor, and sometimes, because if I'm super passionate about something and I'm trying to emphasize something, it can come out a little different. So I too am learning to bring that out and say, you know what, here's what really matters in this world and in this space, and that is being authentic, and what matters really to me in my heart. And I can honestly say it's people, anything living, because I'm a genuine a genuine nurture of anything living, whether it's an animal, it's the earth, it's a human. I care. I genuinely care. And some people can call that kind of pie in the sky. And but as I have allowed that to release, I know at your soul liberation, it was kind of like I still had a hard time. I had a hard time allowing myself to receive. I love to give. I'm a giver, 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 and learning to be able to receive energetically from someone else has been a huge growth process for me. And I'm very thankful for your presence, and being able to attend your soul liberation, because that for me, it set me into that, like that was a huge awakening for me, was like, oh, well, because I was taught that, right? That women are to be selfless, right? You're the mom. You should be giving everything you have to your children and to your husband. And, well, too bad if you're spent at the end of the day. But I knew that that wasn't the right route for me. And you help release some of that. And I'm still obviously a work in progress as a human being. That's the evolution of it. That's why I'm here, is to experience all the things. And yeah, I would love for you just like to maybe walk us through a little bit of a soul liberation. What does that look like?
Sure,
What is it?
absolutely. And I'll give everyone on here a little taste of soul liberation energetically, because I know that you guys are listening to this not just to listen it. Don't let it just be another video or another podcast where you just listen and then you go about your day. Let it impact you. Let it affect how you show up in your relationships, in your business, your health, and because every decision that you are making right now is literally having a consequence, a good or a bad one, right? Depending on what you judge. But everything in your world is based on the decisions that you are making right now. And so, what a soul liberation means, I think it's like freedom for your soul. It's like if your soul could take a deep breath in, that's what soul liberation would feel like your spirit being awakened, as you said, in your body. That's what it's like. It's like, where have I been all this time? Well, I've been covered up underneath the cultural belief that women are to be seen, not heard, that, I am to not share this secret, or I will be made fun of, or they'll say I'm lying, or whatever the past things that we perceive, or hey, if I share this, I had one man share a secret that he was raped when he was a kid, and and so I share these things because um, this is healing for our
Mhm.
generation, and so many of us think that it's just us who experienced it. And
Mhm.
that belief it's like a prison. It's like a wall that separates us from humanity. But I'm here to tell you, my dear friends, like I've spoken to thousands of people one on one from around the world for the past, gosh, 11 years now. And the thing that I see the most is these patterns in people, and that people have been through a lot. And I mean, humanity has a lot of making up to do for what is going on behind closed doors. And so what you're doing is like shining a light. It's like you're a street lamp in a dark, in a dark alleyway that needs to be lit up. And so our ability to be able to say, okay, what is a soul liberation? And I don't know if I believe in the woo woo spiritual work or the meditation or all this stuff. Well, you don't have to believe in it. It's science, your energy, right? And anybody can feel it. I mean, even anybody listening, you rub your hands together. Just a simple thing. You just this is literally just a little exercise to show you. You feel that heat in between your hands. That's energy. And then you just do it. I mean, I can feel it right away. Some of you might not be able to feel it, but you feel that energy in between your hands. That's energy. There's
Mhm.
energy around your body. And so we all have this field of energy, and we all carry things, especially secrets. And so when you come to a soul liberation, what we're helping you do is not just regulate your nervous system and get out of fight or flight and get out of freeze, but we're helping you upgrade your nervous system to be able to receive the success, to be able to have the passionate relationship, to be able to speak up for what you want without being worried about being punished. It's like ending self-punishment. Um, and we face this one belief that if I'm the cause, I can be the cure. Now, a lot of people, it's a
Mhm.
very controversial statement. If I'm the cause, I'm the cure, because right now in our culture, the pendulum has swung into a little. It's okay, but there's a little bit of a victimization here. Victimization can be very powerful when it's transformed. So the biggest victims can actually be the biggest gift bringers once that energy is transformed. But our culture right now is like, well, I want to blame my parents. I want to blame these people. What happened to me when it wasn't my fault. Well, I'm not saying it was your fault. But what I am saying is that, you can blame effectively. If you're going to blame them for the bad, make sure you blame them for how strong you are, how much empathy you have, how much compassion you have. And I'll never tell anyone just to forgive blindly, because I know that there's a lot of, there might be anger, there might be feelings you need to feel. But I can tell you right now that if death came to you and said, you only have 1 week to live, if you change nothing, that's how you know you're enlightened, truly conscious and enlightened. But if you have things that you would change, then you've got work to do. If
Mhm.
you've got relationships you want to clean up, if you still feel like you're not good enough, if you still feel like your self-worth is down, if you haven't said yes and started to expand your heart and put yourself in you're leaning into uncomfortability with this. Shining your light is not easy. Especially when there are people who want to squash that light out there, but you continue to shine anyway. We liberate, soul liberation, we liberate those by shining our light. And then we're free. And that's
Mhm.
what freedom for the soul means. It means to be authentically you, to actually feel safe enough, to feel resourced enough, to finally let the things go that you've been carrying, the old beliefs, the old stories about your finances, about what's possible, the old stories about your relationships and who you're bringing in, and the same fights and the drama and the trauma. Well, guess what? Once you start to face it, there's not that much drama and trauma anymore, because you made a conscious decision. I'm no longer going to learn through pain and trauma. I learn through ease and grace. Then through the series of new beliefs, these new thoughts, they open up these areas for you to feel safe enough to move into it, where you're like, oh, I can receive this. Because not
Mhm.
many people understand how afraid they are of success. I just had a client this morning. She's like, you know, I wanted success, and I thought that if I got the success and I made this amount of money, that the stress would go away. And she's like, and now I've made that amount of money and the stress is still there. I'm like, exactly. It's not your outside things that are happening to you that are causing the energy. This is just energy that needs to be processed and released. And so that's
Mhm.
what we do at these events. We are literally, we like, how do you create your future? How do you manifest? Joe Dispenza talks about this. This is the way you do manifestation on fire. If you really want to know how to become a reality architect and build the life of your dreams, this is it. Your thoughts and your feelings create your state of being. Your state of
Mhm.
being creates your personality. Your
Mhm.
personality creates your personal reality.
Great.
So
Yeah.
if you want to change
Mhm.
your reality, you have to change your personality. You have to change your identity. You have to change the things that you're doing daily. And to do that, one of the most effective ways, I would say, is to share your secrets. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
saw that at Soul Liberation. You know, my uncle did this to me. My father did this. My
Yeah.
mother put me out in the cold, and there's
Mhm.
all these secrets are being shared, and something happens when people share their secrets. It's a
Mhm.
connection, it's a humanity. I'm not alone.
Right. Yeah. And
I
just yeah,
not
in a
alone.
safe space, right? Because
Yeah,
this is right, you create a container
yeah.
where this vulnerability takes place. And that I think is really key, right? We're not saying, shout it from the rooftops and tell everybody and their brother your
Oh
deepest
gosh, no.
secrets. We need to get with somebody that in that safe container, or with that person that we know that we can trust,
Yeah.
to who has already walked that road. That's why a coach, a mentor is important, because we want to make sure that what we're opening up ourselves up to, um it's not going to be weaponized against us, when we take these secrets, because that's important, right? We've taken all of this information and shared it now. And if it's shared with the wrong person, it could be weaponized. And that's not the point. And also, like,
Well, I
I'm
want
a
to
big
touch on
believer
that
in.
though, because you
Yeah.
said, you want to find people in your life that want to learn your past, not to hurt you, but to know how to love you.
Yeah.
And if it's a breach of trust, if you share something with someone and later on they bring up that in a time of trauma, or in a time, well, you always do this, or you never did this, or see, you told me this earlier. That's not why I told you that. It
Yeah.
wasn't to tell you so you could have ammunition for this fight later on. I
Yes.
told you that in a state of vulnerability. And
Yes.
so I would say that you got to find somebody who wants to learn your past, to learn how to love you, not to hurt you. And you
Yeah.
got to know the difference. And sometimes you're going to have to find out the hard way, but most of the time we attract people into our life based on our toxicity we have in our body or not. And so we're attracting people at the same level of us, that and you can tell when you found a healer or a coach or a mentor that's not going to give into your drama, that's not going to create these types of stories or victimization. They're focused on you, because a lot of times what I see is, um, because there's a victimization, because there's a trauma bond there, then you make the healer or the coach the monster. Well, they gave me this feedback. That's not who I am. This is who I am. And I'll never forget, I had someone in my life tell me, I love you so much that I'll play the monster in your story. And I literally didn't understand that until later, when I realized how victimized I was being. She would say,
Mhm.
hey, there's really a part of you that doesn't love yourself. And I would be like, no, there's not. I love myself. Who are you to tell me about me?
Yeah.
but it was literally like me inside of a jar and trying to read the label from the outside. I can't see it.
Mhm.
And everybody listening to this has blind spots. So
That's
that's why if you have somebody that can lovingly show you your blind spots, know what you've been through, and say, oh man, I understand what you've been through. Like, oh, you went through this. Okay, I get it. And some people say, well, what if I don't have anything to heal? What if I'm happy with everything in my life? Well, I would say that a flower only starts to wilt when it stops growing. And so you've kind of conditioned yourself to only see through this, rose colored glasses, but that's okay. But you're only seeing one side. It would be like me just saying, you know, hey, look, you can only see this little thing right here. It's like the dimensions, right? But you don't see all of this. You're only
right.
seeing right here. It's like a fish in a pond. The fish only thinks that there's a pond. It doesn't know that a world outside of it exists. And so the more we zoom out, the more conscious we become, we can start to look and not take this feedback as a way to weaponize it against ourselves, because
Right.
we've taken
Mhm.
feedback and then beat ourselves up and judge ourselves and say, oh my God, this is who I am. But it's not. We all have a part of us that's selfish. We all have a part of us that is guilty at times, or this at times, judges at times. And so if we know we have these parts, then we don't have to demonize these parts of us, and we can live in a more wholer place. And then we can also let others in. We can see others, and we stop judging others so much too. We let not only ourselves off the hook, but others off the hook.
Yeah, for sure. And as you were talking, it made me think about the word discernment, right? Because as we move through life, and part of the evolution of our soul is to experience things on many different levels. And I think about, just that idea of, maybe I don't see it the way you see it, but could I slip it on and walk around in it for a while like a coat and think, I'm going to try this on for size. And maybe after I got it on for a little while, it still doesn't feel quite right for me. You've done that. You've gone into the store and you put the coat on and you're like, yeah, I kind of like it. But then I walked around in it and I didn't like it. So I took it off and I put it back on the coat rack. Well, great. You don't have to, you know, see things from other people's perspectives if that's the choice you want to make. But I found that in having that ability to be more discerning, to see things more, in that broad thing, to see the whole pen and not just the end of it, it just trying it on, sometimes no, things feel icky and crunchy and I'm going to take it back off. I'm going to, I'm not buying this one. But just to have that opportunity to see it. We were just in Canada and there were forest fires. We were out kayaking and we got firsthand view of what this forest fire was doing. It was like it started and it was small and you could see the flames and then all of a sudden it was big and helicopters and airplanes are coming in and they're dropping water. And we used to hear about forest fires on the news and think, yeah, okay, it's a forest fire and oh my goodness, right? But to see it, huge perspective shift, to see how quickly it spreads, all the people that it takes to try to kick it back. And it really opened up our eyes to a forest fire, but there was that huge perspective shift. And had we just been like, oh well, it's no big deal, whatever, and not been willing to see, wow, like this is really a big deal. And I love being able to look at things from all the angles. I don't know if it's just the way my mind thinks or if it's just all the things I've been exposed to in life, but having that opportunity, that's why I love things like to present. I want to bring to this audience all the different ways and possibilities to heal. And so it's like, bringing the way you bring healing to the world, and it's going to look different than someone else. Um i i love the fact that you were talking about identity and being able to shift the identity and with the emotions, and it's a large portion of what I do with neural encoding and with Joseph McClendon's work, and being able to guide someone into a whole new reality for themselves is such a beautiful gift. I just, they're like, oh, you did this. I'm like, I did nothing but guide you. I'm here to help you see the blind spots. I'm here to help you to that next level, but I did nothing. You did the work, and I love that. Um, but anyways, I know that you yourself have gone through a transformation process. So, can you just tell the audience what was your first step? What was your first thing that you did that started you on that healing transformation process?
Sure, absolutely. And I'll tell you this, the person with the most perspectives wins because the person with the most perspectives is the most compassionate person. And so if you can if you a person with only one perspective is a very limited in view because you're only seeing things from one side.
Yeah.
And so when someone says, hey, I want to experience this soul liberation, or because we don't just do live in-person events, we also do online healings, as Monday nights, every Monday night we're healing, we're connecting. And I think it's just as powerful as the in-person work too. But one of the things that we're doing is we're getting you connected. And
Mhm.
so when we talk about what was the biggest moment of my transformation of my life, it was actually connecting to my body and
Mhm.
to myself and to what I wanted for
Mhm.
my life. And I literally felt like, where had I been? I'd been lost in my pain, lost in my illusion, and lost in thought. And if you want to suffer, the all suffering is the result of self-centric thinking, right? And so if you want to get out of the quickest way to get out of suffering is to question your thoughts. Okay, because too many people stay lost in the mind, they overthink, they do these things. And so you got to drop about 10 inches from your head to your heart. And then when you go into the heart, that's where the truest transformation can come from. Your heart has secrets to share with you. And
Mhm.
once you start getting connected into the heart, you'll see there's been walls and barriers that have isolated you from the world and
Mhm.
from what's possible for you. They did this study where uh, fleas, they put fleas in a jar and they put the lid on, and the fleas hit their head on the lid, which hurt. And then they took off the lid and the fleas never jumped out because they didn't want to hit their head, so they would only jump as high. And then
Yeah.
those same fleas had babies, and those fleas would not jump out. It didn't matter if the lid was off, even though they could jump way higher, they would never jump that high because they knew their limits. So everyone listening to this has limits that have been set by your culture, by your parents, by our
Yeah.
generation, and our previous generations. And so now we have a chance to say, wait a second, what is possible for me and my finances? What is possible for me in my healing journey? What's possible for me in my relationship, in my life? If I step outside for a second and I could just take a look, what's really going on here? What's really happening? And what's the biggest thing you can, this gets you 50% of the way there. What do you want? Get clear on it, because too many people are stuck reviewing the past over and over and over again. I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's wrong to do that. In fact, it's a very important part of the process, because as you feel more safe in your body and more resourced, that stuff is going to come up.
Mhm.
And so because you might not remember the trauma, but your body does.
The body
And
does,
so the safer
absolutely.
that you feel, the more resourced you feel, your brain is the most amazing computer in the world. It will literally create situations outside of you to bring that trauma to the surface so you can feel and experience it, unless you start to do it by yourself, or with a healer,
Mm.
or a coach. But our ability to be able to say, no, I'm going to transform this energy as a matter of will, because you can go willingly, or God will take you kicking and screaming, or source or universe or whatever you say will turn up the heat and you're out of reality, because that's how loved you are. So I hear sometimes people say, why is this happening to me? Why is this going on? Well, what could this be teaching you? We're in earth school right now. So how
Mhm.
is that situation with your sister? You're judging her and how she's showing up. If she only did this, or you're judging your husband, how he's showing up. These are just preferences, and preferences separate us from others. And so if you can kind of get rid of the way you believe or think life should be, all of a sudden you are allowing others to be them. But then something magical happens. Now your authenticity comes through and you say, you know what? I want to
Mhm.
start a podcast. You know what? I'm going to write a book. You know what? I want to start to help people. You know what? I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to share this. This doesn't mean that I'm shameful or not enough. And
Yep.
and literally miracles start to happen in your life. Synchronicity. So when I
Yep.
went to India to study meditation, and one of the things they teach you is that when you're in a certain state of consciousness, you are literally connected with more synchronicities, more blessings, right people, right place start to happen. And so that's what I try to take people to, that state of consciousness where you just think thoughts and things show up.
Yeah.
A quick example, I was in Austin right after the soul liberation we did, and I was like, man, I want to be on some podcasts. I literally met two of the top podcasters in the world, Theo Vaughn and Williamson, literally within 30 minutes. I met the two top podcasters in the world.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, man, I really want to create a product I can put on Facebook. Right next to me on the plane is Damon Johnson, one of the sharks. So I'm sharing this because when you get into this state where you're connected, baby, it's just like you think strawberry ice cream and all of a sudden someone's at your door like, I just happen to have this extra strawberry ice cream. And it seems impossible at first, but I am a living proof. I used to be the most skeptical person on the planet. But now I'm the most, I like to think, for me, I'm the most reverent. My skepticism turned to reverence
Mm.
once I started to
Yeah.
let it in, let the love in that's trying to find you, let life in, because I don't think life happens to you. I don't even think life happens for you. Life happens through you, and then you happen to life.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yes. First they say, yeah, to me, for me, by me, through me is the way I've learned it. And I think I've actually experienced it like that, where I'm moving life through me now. I'm taking all of the things I've learned in the last 56 years of life and helping others. I see a need out there to release the secrets. And I love the fact that you said that there's secrets in your heart. Your heart has secrets it wants to share with you. And let those secrets be the overrule the ones that your head is keeping, right? Because we have, the head telling us, this, and this, but drop into your heart long enough so that you can hear what your soul is whispering to you and what it really wants for you and what is really possible. Because it is a beautiful world. When you make a choice to look around and see the beauty and the wonderment of everything, from a laughing baby to the beauty of a flower to the smell of cut grass to the sound of the ocean waves, whatever it is that you're blessed to be surrounded by. Maybe it's tall skyscrapers you see every day, but geez, somebody built those, and marvel at, the ingenuity that it took to build those things. And yeah, so I love that you shared that. Can you just tell the audience how they can find you? What's the best
Sure,
way to connect?
absolutely. One, I want to say how grateful I am for you bringing me on here and how amazing I think that you are. I don't go on to every podcast or show I'm invited to, but I came on to you because I think you're a total rock star and I love to see you impacting and loving the world in the way that you love it. Second, you guys can reach out to me. I sent a link to you. I'm actually doing something special for your listeners where I'll get on the phone for free for 15 minutes if they want to do an introduction call, and I'll kind of show you and point in directions on how they can connect and how they can move forward with their healing journey. And then the second thing I'd love to say is the best thing to regulate a nervous system or to get connected with the secrets of your heart, and it doesn't even have to be painful secrets. It could just be like the joy of like allowing, okay, I have this dream within me that I'm afraid to admit. That could be a secret. I want this. I secretly want this. And not judging your emotions, because at times jealousy, we can think jealousy is wrong. Well, jealousy points the way to what you're wanting at times. So, I remember first seeing a speaker on stage and I was like, I want that. I'm jealous of
Yeah.
that. And that pointed the way for me. So if we stop judging our emotions and we just see emotions as like the most delicious desserts from God or source, it can really change us. But the biggest thing is that like that slow down enough to hear the whispers of your heart. And that's where meditation and silent meditation, guided meditation, or just even listening to a powerful podcast that's doing so much more than using words to connect with you, which is literally like our hearts reaching out to you and hopefully touching all the listeners and all the people watching this as well.
I just got my confirmation goosies. So,
Yay! There you go. Thank you so much for having me on.
oh, thank you so much, Carolyn. And I will be putting in the show notes how you can find Carolyn Ozuna. And thank you all for listening today. And keep in touch with the next episode of The Secret Keepers.
Thank you for joining the Secret Keepers podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a like and follow so we can invite you back. And if you just want more, visit CareenZuleger.com. Remember, you're not alone.